Good morning, Carl, and I'd like to welcome my special guest, Senator David Vitter. Thank you for taking the time to join the Santelli Exchange this morning, Senator.
Thank you, Rick. Thanks for the invite.
Well, listen, I guess the best way to start is, I've been following housing for a while, and I remember doing business as a broker in the 80s when the whole notion of implicit versus explicit government guarantees on Freddie and Fannie, people in the marketplace understood that if anything ever unraveled, the government would step in.
Right.
I don't think much has changed. So now Mel Watts takes over for Ed DeMarco, and it certainly doesn't seem to me like we're shrinking or acting as though the GSEs are in conservatorship. I know you didn't vote to put him in this office at FHFA, but he is. So now tell me, sir, if there is no reform anytime soon, even though there's been several votes to get the process moving, how much control does Mel Watt have over expanding the GSEs, kind of putting them in a similar mode as they were in before the credit crisis?
Well, first of all, I don't think anyone should think that there isn't a demand on Capitol Hill for major GSE reform. There is. Bill passed out of committee recently. I couldn't support it because some of the significant details, but there is a broader consensus for GSE reform, and nobody should think that the GSEs are just going to be left as is status quo for years and years. However, until we do that, you're certainly right. Mel Watt does have a lot of leeway, too much leeway in my mind, and unfortunately he's not moving forward with the sort of a reduction of loan limits and reduction of footprint that FHFA was talking about before his appointment.
You know, Senator, I really understand and I have great respect for your comments that there is an appetite for reform. There's an appetite for corporate tax reform. There's an appetite for general tax reform. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think, you know, there's obviously an appetite if I'm hungry in the middle of a desert, but there's really no way to satisfy that appetite. In the interim period, I guess what I'm most concerned about is while there is hope for reform, Mel Watt has the reins, the horses on the move right now. I want to know, should he move and continue to put the GSEs in play, you know, for more 3% down payments? Really, what recourse do you and the Senate or the House have?
Well, if he starts moving aggressively, more aggressively in that direction, he will absolutely spur a reaction. I can guarantee you that. He's been
and what would that reaction be?
He's been sending mixed messages so far. He hasn't done what I would like in terms of reducing loan limits at FHFA the way they talked about, or reducing the footprint of the GSEs, but he hasn't been all in the other direction either. If he starts going aggressively in that other direction, I think it would absolutely spur bipartisan reaction and action on Capitol Hill.
All right, there was recently a vote for Sylvia Burwell to replace Sebelius in HHS. I know that you weren't one of the senators that was into putting her into this role, but it certainly seems like it's going to happen, you know, now that the bar is 50 votes versus 60. For the final 30 seconds, what is your issue with Ms. Burwell, and do you think that ultimately it doesn't matter that she's going to end up being head of HHS?
Well, I think all of those Obamacare calls are being made out of the White House. However, this is an important instance that we need to further that debate. And in OMB, she certainly had a role and should have stopped the administration from making the pledge that if you like your health care plan, you can keep it. That was said dozens, hundreds of times. It was never true. And OMB was supposed to be involved in checking out that sort of promise.
Well, Senator, our time's up, but you know what I've always said about trying to handicap legislation, garbage in, garbage out. It's impossible to know the true issues of finance down the road, whether it's a foiled rollout or potential bailouts for insurance companies. Thank you for taking the time this morning.
Thanks,
Sarah,
Rick, very
back
much.
to you.